We're getting ready to go live here. Let me bring both channels in. And I think we're ready to go. Hey everybody, this is Glenn from Thrive After 50. Thank you for joining me tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here. Tonight I've got an interesting topic. I've had a lot of feedback on it, but tonight's topic is later life relationships. Are they worth the risk? And you know I've certainly thought about this in the past, and I imagine you have too. But there's perhaps no greater source of personal joy and pain, happiness and sorrow, fulfillment, heartbreak, disappointment than what relationships can bring to a person. Many of us have probably been on both sides of the coin in that, where at times we've really been happy and joyful, and other times just, what did I do? Why am I in this? How did I get myself in this mess here? But one thing that I think we cannot deny is that relationships intensify emotions. And again, it can be just feeling joyful as can be, and outgoing and happy. And other times it's, again, it's just, frustration, anger, doubt. So anyway, the essence of relationships is the ability to be one of the greatest experiences of your life, or one of the worst. Most of us fall in between. And again, like I said, most of us have probably experienced both at somewhere in between, at one time or another, where, what am I doing here? Let me get out of here. And a lot of us at times have not really done our own work and found ourselves attracting the sort of person that in a lot of ways was one we just got rid of. It's kind of like attracting the same person, but just in a different colored wrapper. And again, I know you can kick yourself in the butt, say, how did I get myself in this mess again? And then again, I know a lot of people who have been in relationships and have chosen never to be another one again. And wow, I don't know if that's you. It might be. I don't know. But those of you who have been in relationships that have been thriving, with passion and love, we all know that it takes a lot of energy and effort to make that relationship really great. It's not something that just happens. There's highs, there's lows, there's things you've got to work through, so on and so forth, to make them happy and moving forward. 40 to 50% of all marriages fail in the United States. That's a huge number. 35% of married adults make it to 25 years. Their 25-year anniversary, and only 6% make it to 50 years. Now, of course, you look at 50 years and even 25 years, there's a lot of reasons why that doesn't happen. I mean, it could be the death of a spouse, besides divorce. So those numbers might be a little bit skewed there. But the average length of a marriage in the United States is 8.2 years or something like that. But when you take into consideration, thank you, Eva. And when you take into consideration that it normally takes about a year to divorce, I think it comes back to kind of that 7-year itch that we've all heard about in the past there. So, and then furthermore, statistics show that in the US, 50% of first marriages fail, 67% of second marriages, and 73% of third marriages fail. Wow, those are pretty big odds, pretty big figures there. Relationships have a tendency to feed on fear. Fear that we're not good enough, fear enough that we won't be loved. A lot of us compromise ourselves for the sake of a relationship to be in one. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get into this. According to motivational and inspirational speaker Tony Robbins, there's 6 positions of a relationship. First one is that you're in a magnificent relationship with love and passion. The second position is that it's a relationship of love, but with little or no passion. And the third is you're in a relationship with not much love and not much passion. The fourth position is you're just waiting to escape and get out of it. The fifth one is that you're not in a relationship and would like to be. And the sixth one is that you're not in a relationship and you have no desire to be in one. And I'm sure you fall in one of those categories there. I guess I ask you, which one is that? You know, which one is that? There's many issues. You know, I guess the question is what's at risk? What's at risk of entering into another relationship, into a later life relationship? Well, there's lots of them. I think the first one is just the idea of starting over. Again, you know, many of us have been through multiple relationships. Some of us have only been through one and feel insecure about, you know, how do you do? Where do you go? How do you meet someone new at this point in life? But just the question, do I want to start all over and do this again? Do I really want to put myself out there? Do I really want to trust a person here, you know, once again, and be vulnerable? You know, being vulnerable is a huge part of any relationship, you know. And then I think another one is, you know, what are the intentions, not only my intentions, but what are the intentions of another person? Is there masked intentions that we're keeping from one another? I think some of the most common ones is quite often women sometimes marry for money, for security. Men sometimes marry for sex or wanting to be taken care of. Those are, I'd say, two of the most common ones there. But you know, there's so many other things too that can be involved. I mean, addictions can come into place. Just unhappiness and putting up a face to someone else that, you know, you're not being authentic. You're putting, you know, a false face in front of your real one. There, you're wearing a mask, and you know, so that's something that's a risk. That's a risk that we have to deal with there. Family dynamics. You know, how are your children going to accept or come into play into your new relationship? Are they going to open their arms to your new partner? Are they going to view that person with suspicion? Are they going to just, you know, disregard you and disown you? All these things happen. All these things absolutely happen. And so that's a huge risk too. Compatibility, you know. Again, if someone's kind of wearing a mask and not being really authentic, how do you know if you're really indeed compatible with this person? You may have a lot of the same likes and activities that you like to get involved in, but as we so often know, sometimes over time, you find out that this person was only doing this for you, or to participate, or to be with you, and this really wasn't their thing. And that's a risk too of entering into a later life relationship. Is, you know, all part of that starting over there. And then, of course, there's the financial aspect of things. You know, are we going to be pooling our money together? Are we going to be dividing things up 50-50? Are we, you know, is one person going to be handling the finances and the other not? Just lots of different things to think through and about. You know, if you've got multiple real estate pieces of property, you know, dividing up houses, you know, there's inheritance issues there. You know, I guess you can always sign a prenup if you choose to. That's something that has to be discussed most definitely. And then, you know, sometimes I actually know of an experience where a person married and found out this person was really in debt. And once they married, they kind of had to take on that debt too. So there's just so many things you got to talk about that and work through to get to the bottom of it, you know, to find out, to bring before forward in what you want to talk about with the other person. And communication is just so important, and that's really important too in a relationship. You've got to have someone that communicates with you, that is open, honest, and down to earth. There are 8 reasons that overall a relationship fails, especially for later life relationships. And a lot of these have to do with already being married or in a long-term relationship, why people drift apart and leave. One is just they've grown apart. I personally experienced this one over time. The children, everybody had their own jobs, their own responsibilities that they were doing. One, the mom being at home raising the children, the dad being out making the money to feed the mouths, provide for a college education, so on and so forth. But once the kids grow up, graduate from college, and they get on their own, suddenly you find that, wow, who is this person sitting across from me? I really don't know this person. We've each been living our lives so separately so often over the years. And then the second one that falls under that same category of growing apart, I think, is retirement. Retirement's a very transitional time in life. And again, it's coming together and realizing that, wow, where do we go from here? What's retirement about? One person may want to be doing one thing, the other person not. One person may want to work longer, the other person doesn't. That creates a lot of stress for both sides of the relationship. So that's one of the reasons why relationships fail, is that they just find out that they've grown apart. Age is a part of it too. We're getting older, okay? We have many years left ahead of us at this point of life. And if you are living with someone who is constantly complaining about how bad they feel, not doing anything about it, where you're still feeling very vibrant, wanting to get out and do things, wishing to live your dreams, that creates a separation. And that is another reason why people separate and divorce and go their separate ways. Similar to that is self-improvement. Okay, this one of you wants to step out, really change your life, grow, maybe create another passion, improve your life, improve your health, improve your growth, your just want to be more, and the other person doesn't. That creates a lot of turmoil, and that's reason number 3. Money and spending habits. When the money's coming in, when you're both working, that's a whole lot different than when you stop working, retirement comes upon you, and the spending doesn't stop. That can create huge financial strain, and that is a huge one for people separating and going their different ways. I mentioned earlier about living longer. What's the facts here is that a man who's just turned 65 can expect to live till 84 years old right now. A woman that is 65 right now can expect to live to 87. 1 in 4 people at this age is going to live past 90. 1 in 10 will live past 95. That's a lot of years ahead of us, there. And if you're in a relationship that is strained and not getting any better, you might ask yourself, why do I want to do this for another 20, 30, 40 years? I'm not willing to do this. I don't want to continue down this same road that we're going on. And that's a very real reason that people also separate. Sex and love. Loss of attraction, I should say. Sex and loss of attraction. Many of us have a very high sex drive. Many of us have lost our sex drive, and that changes over time. Problems arise when one person has lost it, the other person still has it, and they're not compatible in that way. And quite often, the attraction factor for the other person kind of drops off when one person isn't getting what they need out of that relationship there. That's another big reason for going separate ways. this was an interesting past regrets. Many of us were raised in families where, you were told by your mom and dad to, if you're female, to go out and find a man who can provide for you, that's a good dad, that, will do you well. And, a man might get the same a different message where, go out and find a good woman who have children with, that will take care of the house and home, so on and so forth. And being the good kids that we are, a lot of us follow down those lines, and unfortunately found that wasn't good advice that we received, and found ourselves in a relationship that just isn't full of love and passion. And so I think that realization comes to people, and that's another reason for moving on and going different ways. And and the last one here, number 8, is different lifestyles. One person, and I guess I particularly refer to men on this one a lot. It seems to happen to at least some of the guys I know, where they retire and sit in front of the TV, eating potato chips, drinking beer, watching golf or one of the sports channels, football, whatever it might be, and just not wanting to get out and do things, where the spouse is saying, all right, this is the day we've been waiting for. This is, our time to get out and really enjoy life and travel and do all the things we want to do, and the spouse doesn't. What do you do? What do you do? Well, that ends up in results in a divorce quite often as well here. So anyway, moving on, I think there's some very important questions that we need to ask ourselves to kind of discover if it's worth the risk to get into another relationship. And the first question I think we need to ask ourselves is why? Why do you want to get into another relationship? Is it something lacking in you that you want to try to find another person? Are you kind of incomplete in some ways and you're looking for someone else to complete you? So that might be part of it. Are you lonely? You don't want to be lonely at all. Is that a really good reason to get into another relationship? And if it is, in your book, a good reason, are you compromising yourself? Are you compromising what you want in a relationship when you decide that you just don't want to be lonely, and you kind of mold yourself around that person? I don't think that's healthy. And that's something we have to be aware of. Is it a fear of getting older? Maybe, who's going to take care of us as we get older? Who's going to do this? Who's going to love me? Different things like this. But, I guess I personally question, is it worth 20, 30, 40 more years just to move into a relationship to have needs met, as opposed to really moving forward, flourishing, and thriving in a relationship? Okay, and that takes time, energy, effort, and a lot of communication to find that sort of person. Number 3, what is important to you? Who are you? Are you comfortable in your own shoes? Are you being the sort of person that you want to attract into your life? Are you being that sort of person where the kind of person you dream of would be attracted to you? I don't know if that makes sense to you at all or not, but I know that if I'm going out and looking for a relationship out of neediness, that isn't fair to the other person. Okay, I am not being whole. I am not being forthright. I'm not being honest in what I'm doing for myself. So that's some insight work that I think we all need to do before deciding to get into another relationship. Who are we? What's important to us? Is it growth? Is it our health? Is it spirit? Is it shopping? Is it, what is it for you that is really, really important? And another one here that I think is just incredibly important is to get in touch, truly get in touch with your morals and your values, you know. Again, right along the same line, what is important to you, truly, truly important to you? Are you willing to compromise your values? Are you willing to compromise your morals for the sake of a relationship? Are you a trustworthy person? Do you have integrity? Can you trust yourself? You know, these are all really, really important questions here. You know, am I bringing my best self forward into this relationship? So those are some really, really important things, I think. And regardless what your decision is, I think I'm going to run over a few things that I think you will really miss out on by not choosing to risk going in, you know, entering into another relationship. One is just having a person to share your life with. I know for me, I was married for 34 years, and that was one of the things that really came, you know, hit me smack in the face the most, is that coming home to an empty house, you know, when you've done it for so many years, where you come home and share and talk and you know, see the facial expressions, the voice intonations, one person sharing the day, the other person sharing theirs. Just that camaraderie, that companionship is so important. And a lot of us can say we don't need that. I question that. I question that. You know, and you also miss out on the love and intimacy. Getting to know someone really, really well takes time. There's no doubt about it. But I think we all have a feel if a person is being authentic or not being authentic, if we stay in tune with our inner feelings here. And that is, you're willing to risk, you're willing to be more intimate, you're willing to trust more, you're willing to be more vulnerable when you feel that is being reciprocated by the other person as well. Well, you're going to miss out on that if you're not in a relationship there. And a lot of growth is associated with the relationships too. It's, you know, I think one of the most boring things you could do is find another person who is just like you, you know. I think it's important to have someone that will challenge you, that will question you, that will, you know, with love, you know, from the point of love, challenge you at times as to what you believe, where you're going, what you're doing, why are you doing this, so on and so forth, and that all leads to growth. And I think growth is really, really important. Just like, you know, self-fulfillment, self-fulfilling for yourself. You know, that growth aspect is very self-fulfilling there. And another part of dealing with the growth is your expansion and your awareness of what's around you, what's possible, what are certain things that you've never experienced that your partner has, that maybe you can learn and grow into and appreciate as well there. I think that's really, really wonderful as well. And another thing that I think you will miss out on is your belief in the story that you tell yourself. So many of us who have been in soured relationships and say, never again do I want to do this, they focus on what wasn't great. They focus on the hurt. They focus on the pain. They don't bother to really look at what was great in the relationship and what it did give them, which kind of leads me into what is the process of letting go of the hurt in a relationship. And one of that, it's really easy for us to blame our partner, blame our in-laws, blame the children, blame whoever you want to do for the failing of a relationship. But if we're going to blame, I think we also need to blame the person for all the good things that came out of it too. And this goes for your parents, for your partner, anywhere. But, you know, a lot of the challenges and struggles that we have help us grow. Help us grow to be stronger people, more determined people. If we hadn't had those experiences, we wouldn't be the same, the people we are today, you know, as strong, as courageous, as determined, as authentic, you know. So if you're going to blame, we also need to blame the person for the good things that they've brought our way as well, that has helped make us into the person we are. And that's a plan, and that's part of the plan there, I guess, as to why we entered those relationships in the first place, is to grow. So if the story you tell yourself creates pain, then it is a story, it's a story that you're telling yourself. Because I think we need to reframe the pain and looking at it in a different ways, It may not seem too great at the time, but what was the value that came out of it? How did it help you grow and, again, become a better person? What is there to be thankful for out of our struggles and what happens to us? And quite often, there's nothing that is apparent right away. Quite often, it takes time. That relationship that you thought was a relationship from hell changed you. It changed you. It helped change you to be a more open and aware person. It made you stronger. And I think that's important. That part of reframing, to let go of the hurt that we are experiencing. And another thing, to let go of the hurt, you've got to realize that you didn't fail. Okay, you didn't fail in your relationship. You grew in your relationship, and that's nothing but good stuff there. So get rid of that self-talk where you beat yourself up, or you beat your ex up over what happened here. Focus on what was great. Focus on what you got from it. Focus how you grew on it. That's going to help you heal yourself and make you more willing to risk getting into another relationship down the road. I personally fear or feel sad for those people who are so hurt and so wounded by their first relationships, where they said, no way will I ever do this again and put myself in this position. I think it makes them bitter. I think it makes them they lose part of their spirit, part of who they are, I think, by that, and become very closed off and narrow-minded in lots of different ways. So I encourage you to be open and to lead with love in all you do. Let love lead you into what happens. A new relationship comes along, a new person, flow with it all, with it. Of course, you're going to set certain boundaries until as you, in any relationship, that's a healthy thing to do. But give it a chance. Let life work with you, as opposed to you always working against life. I think that's imperative and really, really important for us to do there. So, and again, I'm just going to end it here shortly and just say that I need to emphasize that I think the most important part of all of this is getting to know who you are, what you want to bring to a relationship, making sure you're healthy and whole, and that you are contributing and giving, as opposed to always taking and risking to do that. Well, I'm going to finish this with a quote, which I usually do. This is a quote from Rumi, one of the past poets of the past. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. I'll read that again. Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against love. Well, I want to thank you for tuning in tonight and listening to this. I hope this was of help to some of you. If you think it has been for you and you'd like to, I would appreciate if you share it with others, if that's all. And if you have anything that you would like to address my way, please feel free to message me and ask me any questions. So anyway, this is Glenn signing out. I appreciate you spending your time here tonight, and have a great week. So long.